talking with Trevor, I got really excited about the concept for that building and its relationship to sound, and how that concept may translate into some of my own personal interests, which I've had for quite a long time, which is translating sound into 3D. So I thought a long time about what we could use as a medium to generate this piece of art, and I landed on The Sounds of Earth, which is a record that was created and placed on 2 satellites, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, which were launched from Earth in the 70s, and they're still moving. In fact, today they are the furthest from Earth as any other man-made object. And the cool thing about this is not just this kind of the mission here, which is also of course incredible, but the whole idea behind The Sounds of Earth, and the whole idea behind Voyager. This was done in 1970 when really environmentalism was just kind of coming to surface, to become an important issue. And Jimmy Carter had this wonderful kind of optimism about what this could be and what it may mean about sharing the things of Earth that make us as humans wonderful, science and art and music, and sharing that in a way that's very optimistic about survival, really, more than anything. And so Carl Sagan, the great scientist, was commissioned to curate this record, and everything was thought through. Even the cover, which has this wonderful kind of hieroglyphic message on the top of it that is something that you can decode, and it has meaning behind it. And even in the record itself, if you play it, it has a code to it that actually creates images. And so, the meaning was really, really deep with this record. And I just love the symbolism, and I love the idea that it was something that was about the planet, which of course is a key issue for all mankind right now. We started thinking about The Sounds of Earth and how to manifest that into a piece of art. And the first thing we did was we kind of translate the abstract to the non-abstract by using mathematics. And that came down to understanding how to do that with a record with 21 tracks. And those 21 tracks became the first thing. We knew that we were going to take each track and we're going to analyze each soundtrack separately. And those soundtracks then become kind of the constraints or the things that dictate the size of the canvas. So in this particular instance, the longest song is what generated the length of this canvas, and the fact that there's 21 tracks dictated the width of this canvas. So it's 21 tracks wide by the longest song. Those songs start on the left and go to the right, and the really interesting thing about The Sounds of Earth is that it's not just music. These are things like a train, a tool, people talking, a chimpanzee, and then there is some music as well. And so these different sounds have very, very different sound waves to them, and that helped kind of generate a really, really interesting effect. And then we thought a lot through, how does that sound intensity project itself into something that we could then kind of manifest into 3D. And really, to start, we just started extruding the sound waves and kind of gluing up these strips digitally to kind of see what these effects, these kind of landscapes would be created by doing this. And we liked that, but we also thought it would be more interesting to do something that was a little more organic, that blended the two. And so we did a lot of studies and mapped this out digitally several times before we really kind of got into the physical world of mock-ups and studying what it may do, and even ran kind of test toolpaths to understand the effect of this and how this may relate to our CNC router, which I also really love because, like The Sounds of Earth, which is kind of a very analog thing that's on a very technologically advanced thing, especially for 1970 of the Voyager. Here we like this idea of carving something that's really kind of very simple, a solid surface, with the CNC router, which is a very complex digital thing. And so we then started to think about what kind of materials we would use, and we tested a lot of different ideas, glued up different materials, looked at different types of wood species to kind of get a different effect. And we tested the surfaces on MDF to kind of make sure that we were going to get the right the right pattern. But given, the spirit behind this thing about the environment, what we decided to do was really kind of pick a reclaimed wood. And so we found some wood that was salvaged from Swope Park here in Kansas City. This was bound for the dumpster, and instead it was saved. It was milled up. It was brought to our shop. We decided to cut it up into 21 pieces. So there's one piece per track. The tracks were then glued together, just like you would make a solid wood top, and then it was milled, and it was really interesting to see kind of how the final product kind of related to the initial studies. It's almost identical, and there's a lot of really neat things about this piece. If you look at it, it's ever changing. There's not 1 inch of it that's repetitive. And you can understand, that where the tracks are and the lengths of the track, and it really changes as you look at it from different angles, and as light hits it in different ways. So we were really, really happy with it, and with the final outcome. And for us, what was really even more important was the process of kind of creating it and the meaning behind it. And hopefully, it brings to light something that was started 50 years ago with great optimism towards the environment and our journey on this planet as humans. It brings that back to light, and people can find joy and inspiration in that.